Hi, hello. I know I normally don't present myself in such a format where I am speaking into a microphone without a script of any kind. I'm going completely off the cuff, but I had the need to sit down and just talk into a microphone. And I figured, this might be another avenue of content for you guys. Something to listen to, something to watch in the background as I work on my more intensive projects. So if you guys like this kind of thing, let me know. Feedback is greatly appreciated. I think I'm gonna put this one on the second channel first. If not, then you'll know. But just let me know. I think it's a good way to give more content for you guys and give you more of my unfleshed out ideas that I have ruminating in the annals of my memory that I still think are worth sharing, but I really don't feel the need to put into a fully fleshed out video of some kind, so here you go. Simple delivery format, minimal editing, minimal visual quality of any kind. You're just getting some background footage of me playing Pyro with the fucking gas passer. Because this thing got updated recently. Well, updated, buffed, whatever you want to call it. The Neon Annihilator will now crit people because gasoline now counts as being wet. And I decided, you know what, is this thing still the worst weapon in TF2? And yes, it still fucking blows. So enjoy the terrible gameplay in the background as you listen to this. Or watch it, however you want to consume this. Today I figured I'd sit down and give you guys a little behind the scenes information and just some extra information about my Meet Your Match video. A couple months ago, I put out my video, You Will Not Play, on my main channel. And before I say anything, before I dive into the extra tidbits and how it was made and things I cut out, I really just want to say thank you. The majority of the responses, the overwhelming majority of the responses, were overtly positive. They were thankful that someone, I guess, finally told the story that so many TF2 players had experienced and no one really gave enough attention at all over the years. And that's the main reason why I made that video, is because no one had really took the time and sat down and delivered the full story of Meet Your Match and just how catastrophic it was on how we all still play the game today, and just how its lasting impacts still negatively detract from the player experience of everyone. No one sat down, took the entire story of the years leading up to Meet Your Match, what happened, the fallout, and how we still feel it today. No one had done that. There were little bits and pieces of information and insights that were scattered throughout, the annals of TF2's history here and there, mostly from within a year of the update being released, but, here we are a decade later, and people are engaging with a genuinely and objectively inferior form of the game that is constantly thwarting itself and thwarting the player experience in the dumbest ways possible. And again, no one had sat down and explained coherently, cohesively, why the game is broken and how it got into this terrible state. Not only a terrible functional state, but a terrible state of neglect on Valve's part. And now that we have roughly half of the player base, at minimum, I took a poll on my YouTube channel, that started playing TF2 after Meet Your Match came out, you have half the player base that never experienced how TF2 functioned before Meet Your Match came out with Quickplay and just the overall better Valve server experience. And I wanted to at least give a picture where anyone could watch the video, be it a brand new player, be it a veteran, or even someone that barely knows anything about TF2, someone that just knows TF2 is the silly, funky, funny Pootis hat game that they see on Twitter every now and again and see like a meme or something, right? Anyone could sit down, watch the video, and walk away with a full understanding of just how hard Valve fumbled the ball with Team Fortress 2. And it wasn't just one step, it was a long series of missteps that Valve took one after another, and it culminated into the head that was Meet Your Match, and then it just went to shit. No one laid that out for everyone, and I was glad to do it. I was happy to do it, and then everyone seemed to enjoy it. A lot of people were thankful, and I really can't thank you guys enough for the positive feedback on it. It really does mean a lot. And I'll get more into what the comments were saying later, but first I want to talk about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, and primarily what I removed from the final cut. So, this video took me about a year to make. I started dabbling with the idea about 2 years ago in 2023. Like, I knew I wanted to make a video about Meet Your Match, and off and on I was writing sections of a script here and there, but not really committing myself fully to it. But then about a year ago, after I made my video about, the majority of TF2's player base being bots and Valve's neglect and what have you, I'm like, all right, now it's finally time to sit down and really tell this story, because we have all of these symptoms. We have all these ailments, all these problems that Team Fortress 2 is facing, and so many people had either forgotten or had their vision clouded by things like the bots and or just a lack of experience because they started playing TF2 long after Meet Your Match. I figured, you know what, now time to sit down, make this video, and just commit to it. And it took way longer than I thought. It took me about 6 months to write the script, to really to do all the research, to put everything into a reasonable structure. And then it took me another 6 months to actually edit everything. And the most painstaking part of that wasn't the actual editing itself, it was the hunting down of every single relevant and necessary clip to show in that video. Because at any moment, the clip being shown is pertinent to what I'm talking about. You can either watch the video or listen to the video. You don't have to watch the video to come away with the same understanding of what Valve did, but I wanted to have all of these visuals there where people can go, oh yeah, and they can point to that video as a good reference again for this story. And it took me a year to do that, and because I had my other responsibilities with my job, I had delay after delay after delay, and again, I apologize for it taking so long, but that's why it took so long. It was just a massive behemoth of a project that ended up being 4 hours long, and its length ended up being really the only major complaint from people that probably didn't even watch it, nor were going to watch whatever I made in the first place. But the primary complaint was like, oh, it's 4 hours long, I'm not gonna watch this. Well then, bye. But I really couldn't have made it any shorter. The entire story needed that much front-loading and that much context to then present to everyone just how bad Meet Your Match was. Because I could have just made a video about the Meet Your Match update and its functionality and how it broke the game, but that's not enough. People need the full context of how we got there. And that's why the video ended up being so long, and I really could not have made it any shorter unless I take away from the full story, right? And that's what I wanted to do, is tell the story of how we got to where we are today, starting, over a decade ago. So it's why it took so long and why the video is so long. In fact, the video was originally much longer. I had about roughly an hour to an hour and a half of extra stuff. I hate using the word stuff. Extra information and context and video that I had cut out and removed from the final cut for a couple of reasons. The main reason, I had to cut things off because the video was just getting too long. It was getting unwieldy. A multi-hour long video becomes unwieldy in any editing program, to the point where I had cut up the video into separate sections and rendered each one out individually and stapled them together at the cost of some video quality. Unfortunately, there was a lot of artifacting in my video, which pissed me off. I had rendered it 3 times, I couldn't fix it, I tried to fix it and said, fuck it, this is just how it's gonna have to go. And then the final render itself was like 180 gigabytes, and I'm like, shit, if it's this big at 4 hours, I gotta cut this off. So that was the main reason for, cutting out some information and cutting out about an hour to an hour and a half of extra stuff. But also, I really wanted to place a majority of the focus on Valve, or hit Valve with the hammer of criticism and, airing out the skeletons that weren't even in their closet, they were just hanging out on their front porch. I really wanted to drive the focus home on Valve for just miserably mismanaging Team Fortress 2 over so many years, and really put the focus on them and how they fucked up, because it's their fault, right? Valve pushes these updates, they ultimately make the final decisions. It was their fault that the game ended up this way, thanks to their incompetence, or whatever you want to call it, right? I wanted to avoid anything that was, say, controversial. Even though it was factual, right? Even if it's factual, it would be controversial. I didn't want to give anyone an attack vector, a single thing they could hone in on, and then use that to undermine the entire video. For instance, the example I want to present to you, this is probably the most important thing that I cut out of the video that I did wish I had included. Probably good that I removed it because it would have probably harmed the final impact the video had, was we as the TF2 players over the years, not so much now, absolutely had influence over Valve's decision-making, especially when it came to Meet Your Match. Not so much nowadays. We have influence over things like hats, right? But the competitive scene, the player base, absolutely influenced Valve's decision-making when it came to pushing Meet Your Match and pushing official competitive support inside of Team Fortress 2, right? Because if the demand was not there in any capacity, then Valve would have not been given the green light to move forward with the competitive update, right? And that was something I avoided because Valve absolutely, in my opinion, would have not moved forward or would have had a much greater likelihood to have not moved forward with Meet Your Match. Constantly have this very small vocal minority of a very small minority of competitive players constantly bitching and, henpecking them in the ear for official competitive support. And don't get me wrong, I understand why they wanted official competitive support because that's how they enjoyed playing Team Fortress 2. And Valve had poured so much time and resources and effort, at least at that stage, into the CSGO and Dota competitive scenes, and the TF2 player base, they were feeling left behind because they were left behind, and the competitive scene, however small, however tiny, microscopically small compared to the rest of the player base, they also felt, they didn't feel acknowledged, and Valve very easily could have done something to acknowledge them, and they thought the best course of action was some kind of official competitive support in the game itself. And they kept nagging and nagging and nagging. Over years, they kept asking Valve for this, to the point where they reached out and even had one-on-one meetings in person with Valve employees, with TF2 developers, about how the creation of an in-game matchmaking system should go. And to say that competitive players, that this small sphere of the TF2 player base had no influence over Valve's decision-making after the fact that they met with them one-on-one in person is asinine. It's foolish. Absolutely gave Valve at least the green light to move forward with these things. Again, because if the demand wasn't there, then they wouldn't have done these things, right? And then something else that fed into this, right, is that the overwhelming majority of the TF2 player base over its entire lifespan has approached the game for the vanilla experience. Only a very small minority of TF2 players engage in any competitive formats. But the problem, I don't know if it's a problem, but what happened back then is that the largest social figures in TF2, well, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, were involved in the competitive scene in some form or fashion. You had Star, you had Uncle Bane, you had Banny, all these other larger competitive players who were also streamers that really had a lot of pull in the overarching discourse in the TF2 sphere, where you had these guys really hammering, like, yeah, we need competitive support. This is going to be great for the future of TF2. It's going to breathe new life into the game. We're going to bridge that gap. It's going to bring TF2 into this renaissance. And then all of these other people that were following them got swept up in the hype, which just further increased the demand and further brightened that green light for Valve. Like, wow, look at all these people that really want this. When in reality, the overwhelming majority of the player base didn't really give a fuck. They just kind of looked at that as like, it's a neat, novel thing, and if they put that in the game, well, we don't really care. But then Valve really fucked up, and this is where Valve deviated from the player expectation, because players, very obviously, did influence the coming of Meet Your Match, but they did not ask for the specifics, right? That's where people get mad at me, is, you can't blame competitive players for casual mode and Meet Your Match. No, you can't blame them for the specifics, because they didn't ask for these things. They didn't ask for casual mode. No one wanted casual mode. No one asked for casual mode. You had competitive players and vanilla players alike screaming, begging for Valve to fix the broken competitive mode with all of its bugs and miserable flaws. We were screaming at Valve like, guys, this is really broken, please do something. And then Valve just didn't do anything. And they pushed out casual mode, the utterly broken, abysmal mess that it is. Go back and watch that section of my video on how TF2 is quite literally broken. And then on top of that, a massive wave, or multiple waves, of horrific balance changes that were made to appease competitive players, even though the specific stat changes no competitive player asked for, right? Because Valve was consulting these guys and absolutely knew what weapons were banned or what weapons went unused in competitive formats, and largely focused on reworking those things, I guess to make them more appealing for competitive players, but as we all know, they ended up gutting so many fun items to the point where just no one fucking uses them, right? And again, competitive players didn't ask for the specific nerfs on the base jumper, or the nerfs to the caber, or the nerfs to the bison, or these other things, right? But they did bitch about the existence of these weapons, not the bison, but the base jumper and the caber and what have you, inside of their competitive formats. And there you go. Valve made these changes and no one liked them, and now, they just suck. So again, you can't blame competitive players for the specific changes, but the main thing I cut out was that competitive players and the vocal parts of the TF2 sphere absolutely gave Valve that green light in order to move forward with competitive mode. And the update in general. I have a drink. I'm sorry, I took a sip as my throat gets a little dried out here. And something else, man, and something else that nagged at me and what I wanted to include as a point in the video is something that I would have loved to have been. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in these meetings that Valve had with these guys. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in the meetings that Valve employees had and the developers had during the creation of Meet Your Match. It's like, did they ever stop? Right? Did they ever stop and think for a moment and like have a come to Jesus moment? Like, whoa, hey on a minute. What are we doing here? This matchmaking game mode is really broken. Our players are telling us it's broken. We are overly focusing on this really tiny minority of the player base, and we are completely ignoring the overwhelming majority of the player base and how they engage with the game. We're just gonna move forward with this and really hope that this hyper-focusing on this tiny minority is gonna breathe a whole bunch of new life into the game. They didn't even stop and think about that, or maybe they did. Then maybe they had higher-ups ushering them forwards or pushing them forwards to, release this update, but I would have loved to have seen if they even stopped for a moment to think and ask themselves, is what we're doing a good idea? Is what we're doing going to be successful? And genuinely think about that for a moment. And you know what? Maybe they were just completely disillusioned. Maybe they had become so convinced because of the successes of Counter-Strike and Dota, and also the up-and-coming beast that was Overwatch. And again, that was another primary motivator for what Valve did with Meet Your Match to actually release Meet Your Match, was because Overwatch was coming along, and Valve decided to discard why so many people loved the game. They loved the game for the gameplay, they loved the game for the characters, they loved the game for the feel and the environment, how it looks, how it feels, right? They only focused in on, oh, we have a hero kind of shooter game, they have an up-and-coming big and hero shooter game, we need to change this so it could be a market competitor. Right? That was another big angle that Valve took here as well. So maybe because of those things and, TF2 being a good market competitor, they then handed the game off to newer developers like Jill, who had joined TF2 in 2014, and then absolutely some Counter-Strike developers, because I show in my video that the TF dev team at the time was sharing an office with Counter-Strike team, and were definitely, not confirmed, but they were absolutely asking them, hey, how do we, turn this game into, a matchmaking competitive esport? Can you guys give us a hand here? And then, we got what we got. And we got this horrific bastard child of a competitive sixes mode to replace Quickplay and then again completely ruin the experience. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in those meetings, man. And something else that really sucks too is that every opportunity that we have been given as, I don't like using the word community, because community is oftentimes invoked when people want to make it seem as if though their cause or their idea or their problem is bigger than it actually is. But I'm going to use community here. Every opportunity that we as the community to directly ask Valve employees, people who had hands in the creation of Meet Your Match, every opportunity we've had to do that was squandered. Because every opportunity that we've been able to sit down and directly speak with these guys have been through heavily sanitized interactions, heavily sanitized environments. Like charity streams for TF Connect, or people like Shork interacting with, the voice actors. The voice actors didn't have a hand in Meet Your Match, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, any direct connection that we have with Valve is squandered. Because, for what reason, right? I wish someone would take the risk at one point and just ask, hey, what were y'all doing? During the TF Connect charity streams, they've had people like Dave Riller and Jill come on multiple times at this point, and they always have this little interview section on these streams, and they really keep it surface level and silly, what's your favorite hat? What's your favorite TF2 meme? Do you like the POTUS? And they keep it very simple and jovial, what have you. And that's fine, it's a charity event. That you want to keep it that way. You don't want to get into very serious topics. But man, and you have so many people in the community asking and begging, hey, ask some more hard-hitting questions. Ask Valve these questions about the game itself, how they're treating it, how they handle it, how they are handling it nowadays. Ask them these questions, and they just never do. They never do. I feel like we have the right to know, as the players, right, as the consumers of this product. We have the right to ask Valve these questions, you can do it in the most simple and pacified of manner, hey, What the hell? Don't use hell. Hell's a bad word. What in the HE double hockey sticks were you guys thinking when it came down to meet your match? I would love, if I had the opportunity to sit with Dave Riller and Jill in like a fucking Zoom call, I don't know, Discord call, however they had this, right? I would love to sit down and just ask them, what was going through your heads? Was it a higher up making you do this? Was it y'all's idea? What, who, what, when, where, why, and how were these strings being pulled that led you to release Meet Your Match? That's what I would do if I were given the keys to the kingdom and had these direct interactions. Just what were you guys doing? I'd love to ask that, man. And every opportunity they've had has been squandered. It's very, very frustrating. And you know what? I gotta give credit where credit is due. Because last year, TF Connect 2024 Shonik, I tip my hat to you, sir, had the fucking balls to ask a little bit of a more hard-hitting question. He poked Valve a little bit, poked the bear a little bit, like going, hey, what's going on with the hats? How do you guys make the decisions when it comes to hats? Or like Halloween restrictions, you guys ever gonna remove that? It was a very good, pacified way of asking Valve, what the fuck are you guys doing behind the doors? That was very cool. That was, I tip my hat to you, Shonik, for having something of brass balls to really ask Valve, what the hell are you guys doing back there? And Valve gave an answer. They gave an answer in all of their corporate experience. They gave a very corporate answer. They did a very elegant passing of the buck back to the player where they effectively said, I'll put a screenshot and a link to the video in the description of exactly what they said. Of like, yeah, we just pick things we know you guys want. We put things in the game that we know you guys are going to buy, is effectively what it boiled down to. And it's like, man, that's a fucking bummer. And I see why they avoid these topics on these charity streams, because you're never gonna get a positive answer. You're not gonna get anything good from them about like, hey, why'd you fuck up the game? Or hey, why do these fucking hats suck? You're not gonna get a good answer. And I suspect, I could be wrong, but I suspect that at least you have a non-written verbal agreement between these charity stream guys or these TF2 YouTubers or these other Orbiter personalities that have direct contacts with these Valve employees that they have an agreement that they're not gonna touch these more sensitive topics, lest Valve not really feel inclined to grace these charity events with their presence, right? Like, I have a nagging suspicion, there could even be a written agreement, I don't know, that they agree that they're not going to touch upon any more sensitive topics, right? They're not going to ask, hey, are you working on this? How's this going? Are you guys going to fix the game? What happened with Meet Your Match? I have a nagging suspicion that they're basically told up front or agree up front that, yeah, don't do that. Otherwise, we're going to fuck off. That's what I think happens behind closed doors. Again, I don't know, but that's my suspicion. That is my suspicion. And something else too that I got blackpilled on very recently. Like, and I feel like more people need to be made aware of this. This is no shade. This is no shade towards any kind of charity event. This is no shade towards any specific individuals. I just think it's worth acknowledging that one of the largest charity events for children, centered around Team Fortress 2, is actively sponsored and funded by large TF2 trading websites that are owned and operated by pedophiles. By self-admitted pedophiles. Like, we forget that Scrap.tf, Marketplace.tf, and Backpack.tf are all owned and operated by these same guys. And the lid was blown off of this several years ago. There's a Turkey Tom video that goes over this. And then you have these same guys working a charity event for children. You have a charity event for children juxtaposed against self-admitted pedophiles. And like, no one raises an eyebrow to that? Like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, did we just forget? Yeah, people just forgot, right? People completely forgot that all of these guys even existed. Because there was a very good campaign to kind of shut down this discourse. They did a very quick job of kind of snuffing out anything. And then Turkey Tom was really the only bigger figure that covered these things that didn't have any controversy behind them, because he had people like Whammo that did as well. But all the information and the facts are just true. But Turkey Tom exists outside of the TF2 sphere, so you had a bunch of people that weren't even involved with the game looking at that and go, man, that's fucked up, and then they went back to playing Fortnite or something. But then all the people in the TF2 sphere either were completely blissfully unaware or just didn't know. And if you don't believe me that these guys still own and operate and run Scrap.tf, Marketplace.tf, Backpack.tf, and earn a shitload of money and have an absolutely hardcore monopoly over the entire trading scene in TF2, go watch these two videos and you will be as blackpilled as I am about, the juxtaposition of a charity event for TF2 for kids next to openly admitted pedophiles that for years ran a ring inside of Discord servers trying to fish out minors and ask them to send pictures of themselves and they would save them on an online server. It's really fucked up. Just go look at these things at your own leisure. This is a tangent, I'm sorry, but it's something that I believe more people need to be made aware of. And the main thing too is like Valve is willingly inserting themselves into these streams and into these interactions next to pedophiles for, again, a charity event for kids. Like it's kind of fucked up that people just forgot about all of this. So let me remind you. And again, this is like no shade on the TF Connect guys, but part of me has to think like some of y'all have to know, right? Like you have to know what these guys got up to. Or maybe they didn't. They could be blissfully unaware. I don't know. I hope that they are. And they just moved forward anyways. But hopefully now that you know, be a little bit more careful, because you probably don't want these guys anywhere near children. Just letting you know. Just for future reference, guys that run TF Connect. I'm doing you a favor here if you just completely forgot or didn't know. Now you do. Alright, tangent aside, let's get back on track. Something else that I removed from my Meet Your Match video was I had a small section talking about the general attitude towards casual mode, which really seemed to be, well, it was just a general air of apathy, and no one could really focus on casual mode being a problem, because Valve had a very effective smokescreen that was bots. The bots, within a year of Meet Your Match being released, started invading the game, and no one really had enough time to really air out their grievances and concerns with casual mode breaking the way TF2 functions, because, bots, we literally cannot play the game. And all of our focuses went there, and it just stayed that way for 8 fucking years, and now that the bots are gone, we can finally refocus on the other problems that TF2 has. And something that really irks me, something that drives me up the wall like nothing else, is when you know a problem exists, you know something is broken, you know something is wrong, but people choose to ignore it because one other problem got solved, or they can just kind of hand wave it away. Like, okay, bots are gone. Now we don't have to worry about anything else. Now we don't have to concern ourselves with any other game's issues. We're good. We shouldn't be asking Valve for anything else. Like, no, motherfucker. This game earns Valve tens of millions of dollars a year. We have every fucking right to ask Valve to keep fixing this thing if they keep milk, and then of course using the TF2 microeconomy to prop up the CSGO and Dota microeconomies, because if TF2's microeconomy disappears, Counter-Strike and Dota fans are going to very quickly realize, none of these items are actually real, Valve can just turn them off at a moment's notice, and then you have a market collapse and a panic, and Valve loses literally billions of dollars. Because just Counter-Strike, I've said this across multiple videos, just from key sales, earns Valve billions of dollars a year. That's not counting everything else like on the community market, other purchases in these in-game stores, just the keys, the gambling, earns Valve billions of dollars a year, and the last thing they want to do is jeopardize that revenue stream by turning off TF2's microeconomy and instilling the idea in these other player bases' heads that, oh yeah, we don't actually own anything inside of these games, let alone the games themselves. And that's why they keep TF2 alive. Where was I going with this? I completely forgot. The general air and attitude towards casual mode being broken and not being a problem. Now we can kind of refocus ourselves on this. There were some events that were leading up to the release of my video because, I had announced that I was releasing this video about Meet Your Match, and because I am a controversial figure inside the TF2 sphere, you saw a lot of people immediately taking a stance or taking a side and kind of just gearing themselves up to like fight back against what I said. It's fine, I understand, you gotta stake your flag somewhere, right, in order to make yourself look good in the TF2 social discourse in the TF2 sphere. You don't want to be seen agreeing with the bigot, the racist, the transphobe, all the other labels people have assigned to me at this point. I think I've been labeled as everything under the sun at this point. It's kind of funny. Like, they're running out of things to call me, so now they go after my fan base, which is really funny and sad to me at the same time. Anyways, you saw a lot of people orienting themselves in a favorable position in anticipation that my video would be something that could be easily attacked or torn down. And so you had multiple YouTubers, I'm tempted to say the names, you had other people on Twitter tempted to say the names. I'll show screenshots of the interactions because I just think they're sad and pathetic coming from these people, where they were immediately going on the attack and were attacking the notion that Quickplay was better in any capacity. And you had one guy, some fucking idiot, saying, oh yeah, people miss Quickplay, not because it functioned better, not because casual mode is broken and worsens the overall experience, but because, you just miss stomping people. You had to immediately call the other side of the fence, people that support Quickplay or support at least the notion that casual mode needs to be adjusted and fixed to make the overall experience better, you had to immediately paint them as someone is bad at the game. Like, oh, you're bad at the game, you fucking suck, it's not worth listening to. And multiple people did this, right? Even someone like The What Show made this very, kind of just really pathetic and almost childish patronizing video where he felt the need to insert himself into discourse that he admitted that he didn't have an investment in, that he admitted in this video that he just didn't care, but he felt the need still to plant his flag firmly on the fence between either side of the argument. It's always silly seeing these people that don't really care, right? They don't really have a greater investment in these things, in this discourse, in the game itself. They still feel compelled to insert themselves in the argument. It's a very childlike response to these things. The feeling of being left out, right? Like, you're a kid on the playground, you see these other kids having fun, like, man, I'm missing out. So you walk over and try to insert yourself in these things, but you don't really care what they're doing. You know, it's like, I don't like this thing, or I don't care. And then they'll go, okay, and then they're going to keep going about their business. Like, you're fully within your right to say that you don't care, but then don't magically expect everyone to also not care along with you. Like, if you don't care, why say anything at all? That's something I don't understand. It's like, if you don't care, why say anything at all? Because again, I feel like they just feel compelled to plant their flag in discourse before things happen so they don't miss out. So once the end result comes along and they figure out which side of the argument they need to be on in order to be in the favorable side in the public discourse, then they can go, oh yeah, I always agreed with this, right? Even though they very explicitly say they don't actually care. Again, it's something I don't really understand with some people. They feel the need to say they don't care. Like, why do you care? I don't care. If you don't care, then why do you feel the need to compel? Like, why do you feel compelled to say something, right? If you care so little, why do you feel the need to attack those that do? Fuck off. Like, clearly you're not interested in the game at a deeper level, or whatever it is that's being spoken about at a deeper level. Just fuck off. Like, obviously you do care. If you feel compelled to shut down people you disagree with, you do obviously have some kind of investment, so just say it. Just say what you really want to say, instead of hand-waving these things away as, oh, you don't care. Which brings me to an interesting thought I had that came to my mind. I envisioned, I was like thinking in my head, like, what's a good analogy to describe the casual versus quick play argument? Because I want to make a video about these things too. I am admittedly struggling a little bit with what video I want to make next on the main channel. Primarily because I'm having a bit of a struggle finding worth and value in making a video about addressing TF2's problems anymore, where Valve doesn't care about the game anymore. We all know this. And a pretty large section of the player base also really doesn't give a shit and loves telling people how little of a shit they give publicly, openly, on social media. So it's like, what am I fighting for? I understand that nothing is going to change. I understand that Valve's not going to do anything, but I still fully believe these things are worth talking about, because the little bit of value I can find in this is like, hey, learn from your mistakes. If you're a developer, learn from your mistakes. Don't do this shit again. And then also showing everyone that Valve really isn't this squeaky clean, happy-go-lucky, wholesome company that everyone makes them out to be. They are only slightly less shit than your other average AAA developer, right? You have people like groups like EA and Blizzard, what have you, doing this awful shit. And like all Valve employees have to do is not scalp their players with really egregious marketing practices or steal breast milk out of a refrigerator, right? That's all Valve has to do to remain in their consumers' good graces, right? Just don't steal the fucking breast milk out of the refrigerator and you're automatically better than all of the other AAA developers, right? And that's how Valve has firmly planted themselves in this golden light for everyone in the gaming scene, right? Everyone loves Valve, everyone praises Valve, when in reality their business practices, especially when it comes to their gambling, are, equally, if not worse, than what other companies are doing. People don't like to acknowledge that, right? Because Valve gives us these awesome summer sales, what have you. Anyways, I had this thought that came to my mind, where I envisioned quick play and casual being this, I like using food analogies. People get upset with me when I use food analogies, but I like this one a lot. I had originally done quick play versus casual as a medium rare, delicious steak versus a shitty, overcooked, well-done steak. Quick play versus casual. Good steak versus bad steak. But it actually it's a bit more deep than that. It's deeper than this. Originally, quick play, the really good way to play Team Fortress 2 with its flaws. I acknowledged it had flaws, but it was just better than casual mode now. Quickplay was a cupcake. It was a delicious, moist cupcake of your favorite flavor, strawberry, chocolate, vanilla, what have you, with just the right kind of frosting you love, thick, thin, buttercream, whipped cream, cream cheese frosting, what have you, your favorite kind of cupcake. And you came for the cupcake, you love the cupcake, you eat it, you play the game, you loved the cupcake, you come for the cupcake. And then here comes Valve. And you have this tiny minority, right? You have this tiny minority like, hey, we don't like the frosting, we don't like the sugar, we really just want the bread. We just want the bread because eating bread is easier. Those are the competitive players that just want a completely different experience. And then Valve's like, okay, we'll make some bread for you. But then they take the cupcake, remove the frosting, replaced it with yellow hot dog mustard, replace the sugar with salt, and go, here you go, here's your bread. And then also, by the way, you don't get this cupcake anymore. Now you have mustard cupcakes. The game became mustard cupcakes. That's what casual mode is a mustard cupcake. You can still eat it. It still provides caloric nourishment. It still has a similar experience to the original cupcake, but the taste is bitter. The finish is bitter. It goes down your throat like poison, and it is not fun to. It's not fun to consume. It's not fun to chew, but it's still technically a cupcake. And as I said earlier, we have half the player base that had never experienced Quickplay, never experienced when TF2 just functioned better. All they've ever experienced is the yellow mustard cupcake, the shitty mustard cupcake. That's all they've known. You can't have them taste the cupcake. They can never get that cupcake ever again. You can show them pictures of the good cupcake, you can show them videos of the good cupcake, you can explain to them 10 ways from Sunday how good this cupcake used to be, but they're never gonna taste it. And trying to convince someone who's only ever had the shitty mustard cupcake that this other cupcake, that the real way a cupcake should be, is better, that's a very hard thing to do. That's a very difficult thing to do. To present an idea, a notion, a concept that someone has never experienced before and say, hey, this was better and here's why, when they themselves could never experience it. That is an extreme challenge that I am facing right now when it comes to these follow-up videos that I want to make. Because again, I want to make a couple of follow-up videos expressing TF2's greater problems that we still face today. The main one being the functionality of casual mode and just how miserably broken it is. And again, I can explain 10 ways from Sunday like this is why it is broken, but you have an entire section of the player base, more than half, because if we're using data from my channel, which largely appeals to old heads, at minimum, half the player base started playing after Meet Your Match, right? You have to convince more than half of the player base that a mustard cupcake is not good. This is not how cupcakes should be consumed, right? But it's been so long. They've been eating mustard cupcakes for so long that they're either fully convinced or apathetic towards the other cupcake that exists, right? And driving the point home that the real cupcake is better is very difficult, and that's the challenge I'm trying to overcome right now. And it's to the point where you have people who are like, oh no, mustard cupcakes are actually good. I love mustard cupcakes. I've been eating them for years. And if I go eat this other cupcake, well, that's gonna be a worse experience because I'm used to the shitty mustard cupcake. And you know what? If you don't like the mustard cupcake, if you think the mustard cupcake is bad, well, it's just nostalgia. You're just nostalgic for the other cupcake that in reality was just as bad or good as the mustard cupcake. You're just misremembering things. Which to me is fucking insanity when I can very easily point to all of these functionality problems and all the things that Quickplay had that casual mode does not, and how TF2 was designed for Quickplay and not for a matchmaking system. And for some reason that is immediately discarded as nostalgia. That's something else that drives me nuts too, is the whole nostalgia argument, that old is bad, new is good, and then people can just leave it at that, even though objectively, seriously, this older system, again, with its flaws, was simply better than casual mode. That pisses me off to no end. It's like, how can you just, this horrifically illogical argument of like, oh, it's just nostalgia, the old thing is bad, right? We can go to the end member case to completely dismantle this argument. Imagine if you're a guy, if you're a girl, if you're a girl, I'm sorry, this doesn't apply to you, but imagine if you're a guy, you've been getting kicked in the balls for 8 years, constantly getting kicked in the fucking sack, with a steel-toed boot, no less. Well, I'm sorry, you're just nostalgic for when you weren't getting kicked in the balls. In fact, it's actually a good thing that you're getting kicked in the balls, because it's been this way for so long that if you go back to not getting kicked in the balls, it's gonna be a worse experience because you're used to it. And people might actually like getting kicked in the balls. It's illogical, it makes no sense. And that was ultimately something else I cut out of the video, was the lead up to my video being released. All of these kinds of comments that I was seeing of like, oh, you're just nostalgic for Quickplay, it's not actually real, casual mode is fine. But then it's so funny at the same time, this is a very common comment that I saw in the comments section of my video, which had 10,000 comments almost. The most amount of comments I had received on any video. Thank you guys, I appreciate that. Any kind of feedback is great, or any kind of comment is great, good or bad, I appreciate it. One of the most common comments I saw was something to the effect of, no, Quickplay was actually bad, casual mode's fine, but if we really want to make it better, let's just reintroduce all of these features and systems that made it functionally like Quickplay. Like, they acknowledge something is wrong with casual mode, and then they immediately recommend reintroducing all of the things Quickplay had in order to make it better. So you just want Quickplay. It's not that you don't want Quickplay, you do, but you just want it to have the same name. You still want it to be casual mode, right? And of course, I can concede that there's like 1 or 2 things that casual mode does okay. The map selection is somewhat decent. It introduces its own problems, which I covered in my video, but having that is a decent convenience. And then I can't even concede the party system is better because we had the simplicity of ad hoc connections, and that was really all you needed. So really just the map selection screen was the only new thing casual mode brought about that has at least some benefits, whereas everything else just sucks or broke the game, right? And these people concede that, yeah, casual mode needs fixing, and again, let's just reintroduce all of the features and functions that make it like Quickplay, right? I see that comment so many times on Twitter. I saw that comment so many times on Twitter, on YouTube, what have you, leading up to my video. And I wanted to include that, but at the same time, it's like I don't really want to dog on the people watching the video. And again, it gives people that attack vector to undermine everything else, so I avoided that. And one more thing, too, that I found so hilarious is Reddit banned any and all discussion of my video and myself in the months leading up to the release of my video, which is fucking hilarious. People say I over-exaggerate the toxic positivity problem in the TF2 sphere too much. If you need a good example of toxic positivity, right there you go. You would think in the venue which was made for discussing Team Fortress 2. Any and all discussions of Team Fortress 2 belong on our TF2, as horrible of an environment as it is for conversations. That's where you would go to have conversations about fucking Team Fortress 2. But no, they are going to ban arguably the most influential and important update, however detrimental, in the game's history. No, we're just going to ban any and all discussion of this at fear of, oh, just rampant negativity. We don't want negativity or toxicity in here. Really? You're fucking Reddit. These fucking moderators are too goddamn lazy. It was biased against me, right? It wasn't them being lazy. You had a moderator in there that had a hard-on for me, as hilarious as this was. That just kind of showed me how much fucking influence I have, where fucking RTF2 will ban discussion of me. Like, that's how scared these guys were of this video coming out. That was really funny to me, too. It was hilarious to witness. But that is a perfect and prime example of toxic positivity, where you can't even criticize what Valve had done with Team Fortress 2 in Meet Your Match inside of the venue for Team Fortress 2 discussion. No, sorry, you're banned. That's wild to me. And this is nothing new. Toxic positivity is nothing new inside the TF2 sphere. Back when Meet Your Match came out, you had people like Muselk and other smaller YouTubers like Zenomite and what have you coming out and just expressing their disdain and their concern for what the fuck Valve had just done and how Valve was overly focusing on this tiny competitive minority and changing the game away from why people enjoyed it in the first place, right? You had these guys coming out and arguing against this, and then the TF2 sphere dogpiled on them. They fucking attacked them. They ripped them a new one, wagging their finger like, no, we have to trust Valve, it's okay, Valve, they're gonna fix it, and then they just never did. So I really cannot blame Muselk for leaving and going to do something else, when not only the developer fucked the game, but its very players were biting at his ankles and telling him to, like, fuck off, what are you talking about? The game's fine, when in reality it very much wasn't. And then also in hindsight, to give credit where credit is due, you had Star, right? You had Star, for example. Star, later on in his streams admitted that, these competitive players were literally begging him to make videos about competitive TF2 and to play it and to showcase it more. And then in every opportunity when he did that, he would get focused and bullied, right? It's like that's the sad part to me too, where like people probably gave Star definitely too much of a hard time when he exited the TF2 sphere. And I really cannot blame him for doing it. And the way in which he did it naturally was not very graceful, but do I blame him for leaving? Absolutely not. I mean, if you want to go do something else, it's fully within your right and fully within your power, and all the power to you. Best of luck to star, whatever he's up. I don't even know what the fuck he does anymore. This also isn't to say that every influential figure in the TF2 sphere was pulling and vying for competitive mode, right, or competitive support inside of Team Fortress 2. But then unfortunately, these people were gradually extricating themselves from TF2 and moving on to other things. And then what did we have left over? We had the very vocal minority of these competitive players that were fully convinced that the future of the game is in competitive matchmaking. And you know what? Dane, I'm sorry, I dragged your name through the mud a little bit, again, to really focus in on, like, some people, like yourself, made it very evident that you really enjoyed the mustard cupcake for some reason. I don't know why you enjoyed the mustard cupcake. Maybe because you expected Valve to do better and they just never did, and expecting that TF2 to be a competitive esport. Like, the wildest thing that he said to me was this clip right here. I'll just play it for you. I'm not going to ad-lib this.
There still will be a decent size of people who are just plain upset that TF2 is different now. And I get it. You got comfortable playing a certain way and you have a problem letting it go and adapting. This is normal. I said from the start that Meet Your Match is like the new free-to-play update. And when TF2 became a free game, you can bet your ass that there were a ton of people who got upset. I personally wasn't playing Team Fortress 2 when it dropped its price tag, but I can guarantee that there were just as many angry people on forums and blogs condemning Valve for taking away the game that they had known and loved. I'm sure a lot of people quit, and I'm sure a sizable portion of TF2's core audience uninstalled the game right then and there and never came back, but what replaced them was a torrent of people who had been wanting to play TF2, but never got around to it because there was a paywall. I hope you can understand why I say that I think that I can see where this is going. Matchmaking and competitive gaming is the way of the future for modern games, and TF2 is just trying to keep up. We might lose some of you in the process, but it's just a sacrifice that needs to be made, because a team-based first-person shooter that doesn't appeal to the competitive gaming audience, that's what will kill TF2. Not Overwatch, not Valve fumbling with their development. The community's refusal to adapt to the current way of things is what will make TF2's death inevitable.
That one didn't age quite so well.
I did not include this in my video, and I wish I did. Dane wasn't the only one that had this mentality. You had a lot of other people with this mentality as well. Like, you are being replaced, and it's actually a good thing that you're leaving, so TF2 can enter this new renaissance period for people that weren't interested in how the game played in the first place. Like, that is really wild that people just kind of forgot about that. And again, his opinions have changed. I mean, he has now conceded that he really doesn't give a shit and just wants the game to be playable. Glad to see that you came around, but man, a lot of big figures back then were really pushing for competitive mode, and that was, again, something I wanted to avoid in my video at fear of, let's not say anything too controversial. I'll say it now because it's just very obvious and evident and true. You can go back and look at these things and listen to them yourself, and don't believe me, just go listen to their own words, right? And I avoided that at the benefit of the video doing reasonably well, so it was a smart move. It was a smart move. But other than those kinds of negative comments I got on my videos, man, the overwhelming majority were positive. And to close this out, I want to talk about the positive things too. Let's end with some dessert, man. I'm so touched that I was able to make a video that resonated with so many people. I had so many people reaching out to me and saying thank you. Like, thanking me for making this video, either because they were around for Meet Your Match and experienced the absolute dumpster fire that it was and how the game crippled and shambled along in the years following it. And they thanked me for doing it because, again, no one had really put this out there in a coherent fashion as to why all of this was so wrong. And so many comments like that thanking me, and then other people that were thanking me were the people that were not there to experience Quickplay and had only experienced casual mode, and they always knew something was wrong. They knew something was bizarre, fucked up, they experienced the bugs or the issues with casual mode, but they didn't know why. And then they watched my video or listened to my video and they're like, man, now I get it. Thank you for, like, clearing the smoke around this thought I've had in my mind but couldn't really pinpoint where it's coming from. So many comments like that. And again, I'm so touched that I was able to remind everyone just how good this game used to be, just how amazing Team Fortress 2 was. It still is. TF2 is still a good game if you know where to go. Primarily community servers like mine. Play on my community servers. I run the Quickplay rule set. 45-minute map timers, vote scrambles, auto scrambles, team switching, team selection, all that jazz. It is a quintessential quick play experience. Go check it out. Nice large map rotation, random crits, random bullet spread. We will be happy to have you inside of my servers. I have 2 North American and 2 European servers. Go check them out. It's a great time. But so many positive comments, and negativity bias be damned, because it's just something I do. I always go through the comments because I want to see the positive ones and acknowledge them, and give them the little heart, And apparently, this was unknown to me. People could give you money. I guess I forgot. People could just give you a donation in a YouTube comment, and I'm like, shit, I got to go through and like all these comments to acknowledge, like, as a thank you for giving me money for this video. It's still insane to me that so many people support me as is by just watching my videos, but also willingly give me their money either on Patreon or in a YouTube comment. Like, yeah, sure, have like $100. Like, whoa, what are you doing, man? You're first of all, thank you. I'm not to diminish what you've done, but like I'm just making a video about the game I like, and it is admittedly a selfish endeavor, and I've been trying to reorient myself lately to make videos for other people, and not from a place of selfishness, but for making videos for other people, either to inform them or entertain them. People were just giving me money and comments, and I had to go like them, and then I got exposed to the negative comments, but what have you. Negativity bias be damned. It's just not worth paying too much attention to the minority of negative comments when you have 98% of them being positive. And I really can't thank you guys enough. I really can't thank you all enough for the amazing support you guys have given me over the years. It really is something beautiful, and as corny as that sounds, I cannot thank you enough. Not only for the people who watch my videos or like them or donate money and support me financially, but also the people that draw me fan art. I'm going to show some more I got on screen recently, but the people that make me fan art, that's insane. Like, again, not to diminish the people that like or comment or give me money, but when someone goes out of their way to make you fan art, it's not only them lending their time. Time is money, so they're giving me their money, effectively, but they're also lending me their talent for free, in that they're just gonna draw me something, or they draw my character, or they draw me, and it's so, I don't know, man, it hits different to know that someone has doubly given a piece of themselves to show their support for what I do, and I really can't thank you guys enough, all you artists out there that do these things. I'm happy you like what I do, I'm happy you like my little mascot character lady, and something else too I want to thank is I had a lot of people that I admire, either other content creators or people that I've respected for a long time, reach out to me and like say, hey man, you did good. Like, I never thought that I would receive that level of acknowledgement or validation from anyone for anything that I do, because for years people have dogpiled me and hated on me for very stupid and petty reasons, and they always, gear up on the attack and try to tear me down at every given opportunity. You see these things on Twitter. Just go look at how often these people do this, and to have very kind and talented people reach out to me and go, hey, you did good. It's like, fuck, that's awesome. Like, I finally felt some pride in what I do on YouTube, man. For the first time, I felt pride in what I do for YouTube and making these videos, and I really cannot thank you guys enough. It's a good boost of motivation to keep doing this. And to close things out, I want to thank you guys so much for listening to this whole thing. I know is a long-winded ramble. There's probably other things I'd like to discuss, or things I probably didn't discuss well enough, like my mustard cupcake analogy. Hopefully you got the idea. If you enjoy these kinds of things, let me know in the comments, and I'll keep doing them. I have a notification Discord that you can join. You can't talk in there, but you get notifications for when I go live, either with a video or with a stream or what have you. I do stream, by the way, often on my second channel, so go check that out. Yeah, that's about it. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for your endless and unrelenting support. It's a good thing I say that. Thank you for your support. Thank you to all my patrons that give me money to do this. I cannot thank you guys enough. You guys support the TF2 servers that I run. You pay for them, which is awesome, so much appreciated. Go play on them, by the way. And I will see you guys later.